July 26, 1875. A lonely California road. A Wells Fargo stagecoach rounds a bend, its strongbox heavy with gold. Suddenly, a figure steps out from behind a boulder. He's wearing a flour sack over his head with eye holes cut out, and a long coat. In his hands, a double-barreled shotgun. Throw down the box, he commands in a deep, resonant voice. The driver freezes. The masked man points to the hillside, where the barrels of several rifles seem to poke out from the bushes. If he dares to shoot, the bandit warns, he'll get buckshot in his liver. The driver doesn't hesitate. He throws down the box. The bandit quickly axes it open, pockets the gold, and then does something strange. He politely tips his hat. "Thank you," he says, before disappearing into the wilderness. Later, when the shaken driver looks back, he realizes those rifles on the hillside were just sticks, propped up to look like a gang. He'd been robbed by a single man with an unloaded shotgun. This was the first act of a legend. Over the next 8 years, this mysterious outlaw would rob 28 Wells Fargo stagecoaches more than anyone in American history. He never fired a shot. He never harmed a soul. And he left behind poetry. The newspapers would call him Black Bart. After that first robbery, Black Bart vanished for nearly 2 years. Then, in 1877, he was back, and his methods became legendary. He was like no outlaw the West had ever seen. He worked alone, always. He only targeted Wells Fargo stagecoaches carrying gold, never bothering passengers for their personal belongings. His technique was precise. He'd study stagecoach schedules, find the perfect ambush spot on a steep hill where the horses had to slow down, and then he'd wait. When the coach arrived, he'd step out in his flour sack mask and demand the strongbox. His voice was always cultured, his manner unfailingly polite. He never cursed. In fact, he often apologized for the inconvenience. On one occasion, he told terrified passengers, "I don't wish to harm anyone. I just need what's in that box." Even stranger, he never rode a horse. He was a phantom on foot, hiking for miles through the rugged Sierra Nevada mountains. After each robbery, he'd just melt into the wilderness, moving across country where no posse on horseback could ever hope to follow him. He knew the terrain like the back of his hand. But what truly made him a folk hero was his poetry. At his fourth robbery in 1878, he left a note inside the empty strongbox. It read, "I've labored long and hard for bread, for honor, and for riches, but on my corns the long you've tread, you fine-haired sons of bitches." He signed it. Black Bart, the poet. His clever way of writing poet, the newspapers went absolutely wild. An outlaw who quoted Shakespeare, wrote his own verse, and robbed with style. It was unheard of. In an age of brutal killers like Jesse James, Black Bart was charming. People admired his nerve and his refusal to use violence. At another robbery, he left a second poem. "Here I lay me down to sleep, to wait the coming morrow. Perhaps success, perhaps defeat, and everlasting sorrow. Let come what will, I'll try it on. My condition can't be worse. And if there's money in that box, 2 eyes money in my purse." Wells Fargo, however, was not amused. Every robbery was a blow to their profits and their pride. They hired their best investigator, Detective James Hume, to hunt down this gentleman bandit. But Hume had nothing to go on. Black Bart left no clues, had no partners, and seemed to vanish into thin air. Posses would chase him into the mountains, only to lose his trail every single time. Between 1875 and 1883, Black Bart pulled off 28 robberies, stealing over $18,000 in gold, a massive fortune back then. And he did it all without spilling a single drop of blood. Wells Fargo was so desperate they offered a handsome reward. Still, no one could catch him. Who was this man? A disgruntled miner? An educated man down on his luck? The theories were endless. The truth was stranger than any of them. The end began on November 3rd, 1883, right back where it all started, near Copperopolis. The stagecoach driver, Reason McConnell, had been robbed by Bart before. As his horses struggled up a steep hill, the familiar figure stepped into the road. Flour sack mask, long coat, shotgun. Throw down the box. McConnell did as he was told. But this time was different. A young passenger named Jimmy Rollery was riding up top, carrying a rifle from a hunting trip. As Black Bart focused on axing open the strongbox, Jimmy saw his chance. He raised his rifle and fired. The shot missed, but Bart flinched, startled. McConnell grabbed his own gun and fired too. Panicked, Black Bart grabbed what he could and fled into the brush, with bullets whizzing past him. For the first time in his 8-year career, he'd been forced to run. And for the first time, He'd left something behind. At the scene, investigators found a small bundle he'd dropped. Inside were crackers, sugar, and a handkerchief. A simple handkerchief. But in one corner, Detective Hume found a tiny laundry mark. FX07. This was the break he had been waiting for. Hume took that clue to San Francisco and began a tedious search, visiting every one of the city's 90 laundries. Finally, a laundry owner recognized the mark. It belonged to a customer named Charles Bolton, a respected mining engineer. Charles Bolton was the last person anyone would ever suspect. He was a 53-year-old gentleman who lived in a nice boarding house, dressed in tailored suits, and was known for his polite, quiet demeanor. His landlady called him a perfect gentleman. He went to the theater, dined in fine restaurants, and supposedly traveled often for his mining business. This was the feared Black Bart. Detective Hume called Bolton into the Wellsfargo office. When confronted with the handkerchief, Bolton's calm exterior finally cracked. After hours of interrogation, he confessed. His real name was Charles Earl Bowles. He'd come west during the gold rush, served as a sergeant in the Civil War, and returned to prospecting, but with little success. He grew bitter, convinced that big companies like Wells Fargo were cheating honest miners like him. Robbing stagecoaches was his form of revenge and a way to fund the sophisticated life he felt he deserved. His mining engineer job was a total fabrication. His business trips were just scouting missions for his next heist. The stolen gold paid for his double life as a San Francisco gentleman. And the poetry, that was just his way of adding a little flair, a little style to his crimes. He also confirmed what everyone suspected. His shotgun was never loaded. He'd seen enough violence in the war. Bowles pled guilty to one robbery and was sentenced to 6 years in San Quentin prison. He was a model inmate, and his sentence was reduced for good behavior. On January 21, 1888, after serving just over 4 years, Charles Bowles walked free. Reporters swarmed him. They asked if he'd go back to robbing stages. He just smiled and said, "Gentlemen, I'm through with crime." One reporter asked if he'd write more poetry. Bowles replied, "Young man, didn't you hear me say I'm through with crime?" He returned to San Francisco, but Detective Hume, still suspicious, had him followed. Bowles lived quietly for a few weeks, enjoying his newfound celebrity. Then, one day in late February 1888, he vanished. His hotel room was empty. He left no note. He was just gone. A few months later, a Wells Fargo stagecoach was robbed in the exact same style as Black Bart. Was it him? No one knows. Rumors flew. Did he flee to Mexico? Did Wells Fargo secretly pay him a pension to just stop robbing them? Or, as some darker theories suggest, did they have him killed? To this day, no one knows for sure what happened to Charles Bowles. He disappeared into history, leaving behind a legend. The story of Black Bart is a classic American tale, the story of an underdog who challenged the powerful with wit and style instead of violence. He was a criminal, yes, but he became a folk hero, the gentleman bandit, the poet outlaw who robbed the rich, lived a double life, and vanished into legend. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories from history.